Welcome to RealScary, the home of true scary stories, where we bring you the most unnerving of content, from British ghost stories to the most gruesome of murders. So if you're quite partial to the occasional fright, you're in the right place. And today's true scary story is the haunting of 50 Berkeley Square, which is located in the prosperous Mayfair district of London. 50 Berkeley Square is a late Georgian house that was built in 1740 and on first impression seems like every other house on the well-to-do street. However, this house has a very dark history that many are not familiar with. It was once known as the most haunted house in the whole of London. Today it is better known for being one of the oldest unaltered buildings in England's capital city. Although its reputation may have faded somewhat over the years, this four-storey townhouse was at the centre of many terrifying stories regarding a nameless horror that took the lives of both the foolhardy and unlucky alike. To this very day, visitors are warned to stay away from the top floor and of the potential dangers that still dwell within its Georgian walls. The building was designed and built by a Mr. William Kent in the late 18th century as one of many in the well-to-do Mayfair area. And almost immediately after the first tenant occupied the property, the neighbours began recounting stories about its sinister residents. The most common story was that of a young woman by the name of Catherine, who jumped from the uppermost floor of the house in a bid to escape her abusive uncle. And reports indicate from that horrific day onwards, people would report seeing the figure of a young woman throwing herself from the top floor window and screaming as she did so, only to disappear before reaching the ground. Another reported story is that of a Mr. Dupree, who was the sadistic head servant that locked a young kitchen assistant by the name of Ethel in the attic as punishment for her slow working ability in the kitchen. Sadly, however, Ethel succumbed to the cold and died scared and alone in the darkness of the loft. The first long-term resident of 50 Berkeley Square was UK Prime Minister George Canning, who lived at the property until his untimely death in 1827. Canning was the first to experience the hauntings at the house, which he recorded in his diary as unexplained sounds and disturbing psychic phenomena. After his death, a variety of people moved in and out of the house throughout the 1850s, but oddly the house could not attract a long-term owner nor occupier. However, at this point, the house came to life when a maid by the name of Lydia Wilkinson unwittingly spent the night on the top floor. Reports state that Lydia was found screaming the following morning. Her face was a mask of fear. Lydia did survive, but was declared insane and on medical advice was placed in Bethlehem Psychiatric Hospital, where she spent her remaining days. Rumours quickly began to circulate around London that only the bravest of souls would dare to spend the night at 50 Berkeley Square. And shortly thereafter, a man by the name of Benjamin Smith, apparently with no fear of ghosts, lost a bet with his drinking partners regarding staying the night at the sinister building. After setting up a bell system in the house, 1 ring for fear, 2 rings for help, he laid his head on the pillow, almost asleep. The bell began shaking erratically. Poor Benjamin had a massive heart attack while still under the covers and was found dead, his head still on the pillow, the following morning. The next owner of the house was an elderly spinster by the name of Emily Curzon, and surprisingly she never reported any ghostly sightings or unexplained noises during her tenure. Emily spent the last of her days in the townhouse before dying of natural causes, and her diary reported nothing of interest regarding her time living in the sinister and most haunted house in London. But the horror at 50 Berkeley Square was merely lurking in the shadows, and waiting for the Viscount Beerstead to purchase and thereafter lease it to a young man on the verge of marriage by the name of Thomas Myers in 1859. Myers made every preparation possible to receive his bride in the house, ordered opulent carpets, hung beautiful pictures, bought fine china, in fact everything he could possibly undertake. But a few days before the day fixed for the wedding, the lady to whom he was engaged unceremoniously dumped him and married another man. Myers remained at the house, leaving everything in exactly the same state as when he heard that terrible news which had destroyed his life. It is said that some of the carpets were not even unrolled and remained the same for decades, just as they were when they left the warehouse. After Thomas's fiancée jilted him, he isolated himself in the home that he had furnished for her and very quickly became a recluse. On one reported occasion, the neighbours saw him taking walks at night. His lone candlelight could be seen drifting from room to room to room. Sometime later, Thomas Myers was declared insane and spent his remaining days incoherent at Colney Hatch Lunatic Asylum. The former Prime Minister's home had now become derelict. It was a spectacle of decay in an otherwise respectable central London neighbourhood. In the words of Charles G. Harper, author of the 1907 book Haunted Houses, the four-storey house was the very picture of misery, which also carried the unenviable reputation as the most haunted house in London. In 1872, the aristocrat Lord Littleton decided to stay a night at 50 Berkeley Square after concluding some business dealings in Mayfair. He was fully aware of the reputation the house had and thought it wise to bring along his shotgun. And just after midnight that very night, it is reported he fired his gun at a white mass of inhumanity that was dominating the shadows. He vowed never to step foot in that sinister building ever again. And he was true to his word. In 1873, the local council summoned its owners over back taxes. When neither Myers nor Beerstead came forth, the townhouse's formidable reputation led to the charges being dropped, and the building again lay vacant for many years. And although empty, neighbours reported unearthly moans and screams, along with the sound of furniture being dragged, bells ringing, and windows slamming shut. Despite its dilapidated brickwork and accumulated pile of waste, 50 Berkeley Square was purchased by a Lady Brampton and her two teenage daughters in 1879. Upon moving in, the eldest daughter noted a musty smell like zoo animals in their cages, and during her preparation for the arrival of her betrothed, a Captain Kentfield, a maidservant called Emily Smithson was found collapsed and in hysterics in the guest room, which unsurprisingly was situated on the top floor. She repeatedly screamed, "Don't let it touch me, don't let it touch me," over and over again. Emily, like the many others, was declared insane and sent to a sanatorium, where she lived out her remaining days. Meanwhile, 1 hour after the captain's arrival, screams and a gunshot were heard on the upper floor. Lady Brampton hurriedly rushed upstairs to see what was happening and terrifyingly discovered the dead body of her betrothed, Captain Kentfield, face down in the guest room. The coroner's report recorded fright as the cause of Captain Kentfield's death, and an article in the Mayfair magazine recounted the entire affair, and the nameless horror was soon known throughout the United Kingdom. By the late 19th century, the haunted townhouse had been long abandoned. Unfortunately, 2 sailors on leave from HMS Penelope on Christmas Eve in 1887 could not have known what awaited them. Edward Blunden and Robert Martin were merely looking for a place to spend the night after a night of celebration had left them bereft of money for lodgings. The two stumbled upon the derelict 50 Berkeley Square and unwittingly settled into one of the upper bedrooms. At some point, Bludgeon began hearing disturbing ghostly footsteps, and then suddenly the door swung open and a deep growling menacing mass resembling a middle-aged man entered their room and started to attack Blunden. Martin awoke to his shipmate being attacked by the ghost and in a panic ran out of the room and house as fast as his tipsy legs would carry him. He ran straight to the local police station and in hysterics reported what had just taken place at the house in Berkeley Square. Upon his return to the house, accompanied by the police, his friend Edward Blunden was sadly discovered dead in the basement. Martin spotted a painting on the wall on his way out of the house and suddenly started screaming, "That is who attacked Edward! That is who attacked Edward!" pointing to the painting on the wall. The painting was of no other than Mr. Thomas Myers, who had died many years ago. The horror of 50 Berkeley Square had taken its last life, for now. And to this day, a police notice hangs on the wall inside the townhouse that states the following: the upper floors cannot be used for any purpose, and may all who read this notice heed its warning. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed our latest edition in Scary Stories, and if you did enjoy, please like, share and subscribe. And until our next unannounced rendezvous, be safe and sweet dreams.